The boarding gate at Hartsfield-Jackson was buzzing when 17-year-old Malik Johnson stepped onto the jet bridge, his heart thudding with a mix of nerves and pride. He had never flown first class before. The ticket had been a gift from his mother, who had worked double shifts for months after Malik earned a full academic scholarship to a prestigious summer engineering program in Seattle. As he found his wide leather seat near the front of the cabin, he ran his fingers lightly over the polished armrest, hardly believing this moment was real. Outside the window, the Atlanta skyline shimmered beneath a humid Georgia sky. Passengers continued boarding, some offering polite nods, others staring a second too long. A middle-aged man in an expensive suit paused in the aisle when he saw Malik seated in 2A. His brow furrowed. He glanced at his boarding pass, then at Malik, then up at the flight attendant. "I think he's in the wrong seat," the man said quietly, though not quietly enough. Malik felt the familiar sting of being measured and found wanting. He calmly held up his boarding pass. "This is 2A," he said. His voice was steady, but his palms were damp. The flight attendant forced a thin smile. "Sir, may I see your ticket?" she asked Malik, even though she hadn't asked the suited man for his. He handed it to her. She studied it longer than necessary. Around them, whispers rippled like wind through dry leaves. "It's correct," she finally said, though her tone carried no apology. But the suited passenger wasn't satisfied. "There must be some mistake," he insisted. "I paid for this seat." The attendant excused herself and returned minutes later with a supervisor. The supervisor leaned down, her expression tight. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us for a moment." "For what?" Malik asked, confusion clouding his eyes. "We just need to clarify something." The entire cabin had fallen silent, phones subtly tilted upward. Malik could feel dozens of eyes pressing into him. He stood, gathering his backpack, and followed them toward the front galley. The suited man slipped into 2A as though the issue had already been settled. In the galley, the supervisor spoke in hushed tones. "There's been a concern raised about your seating assignment." "My boarding pass says 2A," Malik repeated, swallowing hard. She nodded, avoiding his gaze. "We understand, but for the comfort of all passengers, we're going to reassign you to a seat in the main cabin." The words struck like a slap. "For their comfort?" he echoed. "It's just easier this way." Malik's throat tightened. He thought of his mother hugging him at the security checkpoint, telling him he belonged wherever his hard work took him. He thought of the nights spent studying while friends were out having fun. He thought of the scholarship letter with his name printed in bold. "No," he said quietly, "I paid for that seat." The supervisor's smile vanished. "If you don't comply, we'll have to remove you from the flight." A murmur swept through nearby rows as the confrontation stretched longer than anyone expected. Finally, with shaking hands but a straight spine, Malik stepped back into the aisle. "I'm not moving." Minutes later, airport security boarded the plane. Gasps flickered through the cabin. The suited passenger avoided eye contact as Malik was escorted off. No shouting, no resistance, just humiliation burning beneath his skin. Passengers shifted uncomfortably as the door closed again. The plane pushed back from the gate, but instead of taxiing toward the runway, it stopped. Then it waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The captain's voice crackled overhead. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unexpected operational issue. We'll update you shortly." Inside the terminal, Malik sat near the window, fighting tears he refused to let fall. His phone buzzed. A woman who had been seated across the aisle had posted a video of the incident online. It had already gathered thousands of views. Comments flooded in: anger, disbelief, support. Back on the tarmac, frustration mounted. An hour passed, then another. Announcement: "Due to a crew compliance review, we are required to return to the gate." Groans filled the cabin. When the doors reopened, several officials boarded, not airport security this time, but airline executives and a representative from corporate compliance. The woman who had filmed the encounter stood up with her phone in hand. "Is this about the young man you forced off?" she asked loudly. The silence that followed was heavier than turbulence. The suited passenger shifted in 2A, his confidence faltering. Within minutes, murmurs spread from row to row. The video had gone viral. News outlets were calling the airline's media office. Social media users were demanding answers. Civil rights advocates were tagging the airline in thousands of posts. The captain's voice returned, more somber now. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight has been temporarily grounded pending a review of a customer removal incident." The words landed like truth finally cracking through a polished surface. Inside the terminal, a different supervisor approached Malik. Her expression carried something new, urgency. "Mr. Johnson," she said, "we'd like to sincerely apologize. There was no justification for asking you to leave your assigned seat." He studied her face, searching for sincerity. "We are reboarding the aircraft. Your original seat is available, and we would like you to return, if you're willing." Malik hesitated. Part of him wanted to walk away, to refuse, to protect what dignity he had left. But another part, stronger, steadier, knew this moment was bigger than one seat. When he stepped back onto the plane, the cabin erupted in quiet but undeniable applause. Not everyone clapped, but enough did. The suited passenger was gone. Malik reclaimed 2A, fastening his seatbelt as his heart steadied. Outside the window, the runway stretched wide and open. This time, when the engines roared and the plane lifted into the sky, it carried more than passengers. It carried a lesson about bias exposed, about accountability demanded, about a young man who refused to shrink himself to fit someone else's comfort. And somewhere high above the clouds, as sunlight poured through the cabin windows, Malik allowed himself a small, victorious smile.